여기 문이 열리면 나는 너를 따라가 하나 둘 셋 너에게 좀 더 가까이 어디선가 반짝거리는 환한 불빛 내내 맘을 사로잡았어 어디론가 이끌리고 있는 내 마음 조금씩 내 발걸음을 옮겨봐 알 수 없었던 나 아직까지 본 적 없었던 이 느낌이 왠지 쉽지 않은 것 처음 느껴보는 설레는 맘 감추지 못한 채 한토끼처럼 내게 달려가고 있는 나를 향해서 환하게 웃어주는 너의 눈동자 한 번, 두 번, 세 번 계속해서 생각나 낯서는 이 설레임 혹시라도 꿈이 아닐까 이 잠에서 깨기 싫은 걸 점점 커져 밤이 풍선처럼 저 하늘 위에 떠 있는 것 같아 나 언젠가는 예쁜 미소로 내게 다가가고 싶어 어디선가 날 부르는 목소리에 벌써 기분이 구름 위를 걷고 있는 것 같아 처음 느껴보는 설레는 맘 감추지 못한 채 한토끼처럼 내게 달려가고 있는 나를 향해서 환하게 웃어주는 너의 눈동자 한 번, 두 번, 세 번 계속해서 생각나 낯서는 이 설레임 혹시라도 꿈이 아닐까 이 잠에서 깨기 싫은 걸 점점 커져 밤이 풍선처럼 저 하늘 위에 떠 있는 것 같아 나 언젠가는 예쁜 미소로 내게 언제쯤에 너와 나란히 걷고 있을까 언젠가 너와 마주 볼 수 있을까 너의 눈동자 한 번, 두 번, 세 번 계속해서 생각나 낯서는 이 설레임 혹시라도 꿈이 아닐까 이 잠에서 깨기 싫은 걸 점점 커져 밤이 풍선처럼 저 하늘 위에 떠 있는 것 같아 나 언젠가는 예쁜 미소로 내게 다가가고 싶어
Good evening, and oh, sorry, I should wait for this to finish starting up, shouldn't I? Let's try that again in a moment. And I should fiddle with this option because that's not currently capturing the right thing. Oh, go on, you know you want to. Can I do it? Yes. Right, good evening. And welcome back to Shenzhen I, where we last week I was recovering from quite a lot of printer wrangling and so didn't do anything about my printer. This week, well, I have actually been doing more printer wrangling, and in particular changing the separation pad on a LaserJet 1100, and I am still slightly traumatised by the terrible sounds of screeching plastic as I took it apart.
You want more gin?
No, that's fine. I don't want more gin. Not right now, probably. No, that's about the right volume, actually. Yes, so I think I'm going to carry on with the attempt at the sushi delivery robot, and we'll come back to the printer in due course, probably. Because despite spending the whole of last Friday evening working on it, I still haven't actually got my sushi delivery robot making and delivering robot working correctly, and I can't quite remember where I was, and I don't seem to have left myself any notes to help with this, so there may be a certain amount of working out what the hell I was playing at. Has that immediately stopped at a breakpoint somewhere? Or has it just crashed? Oh, right, yes, okay, it's just crashed. Right. So I can't even run the simulation and see what situation I was in. Yes. Right. So what do we have? What do? We have this processor here, which is clearly listening on the radio and writing newly received packets into the memory, and then this one, which obviously reads from the memory and would like to tell these two what to do, and this one makes the sushi and these three deliver the sushi. Right, well, that seems quite simple. I wonder why it doesn't work. I mean, at the moment our problem is that one is blocked waiting for this one to... Okay, so what's our overall design here? So in the first time step, let's start again. This processor reads -999 because there's no signal from the radio, and given that, sends a there is nothing new for you to do message over to this processor. That one then attempts to read from the RAM, checks if what it reads there is -1. Is that really a sensible thing to have in there at the end? Can I make it 0 instead? I think I can. That might be more sensible. Hang on, I'm just going to change where my IRC is. So, yeah, why am I using -1 as a sentinel when the RAM starts filled with zeros? Like, it feels like that's probably a more sensible sentinel, and all of our table numbers and probably all of our sushi types are positive. So let's change all of those -1s to 0 because I think that's more sensible. Right, so yes, Jacob, my RAM starts initialized to all zeros. It is indeed positively luxurious. Like there are some fairly pleasant behaviours of these systems. Similarly, all of my GPIO ports start initialized to 0, whether I like it or not.
Oh, Ben, I should tell you this, since it's relevant now. Yesterday, one of my supervisions, I asked the second years how their break was, and one said, I stay mostly in Macau. I said, oh, I've heard of Macau. Where is it being taught in Macau script? And his partner came along and said, you may have heard of Macau. You won't have to Shenzhen.
I mean, like, I had heard of Shenzhen before Shenzhen I, but
I didn't know what Macau was, I had heard of it.
It's quite close to Shenzhen. They're all. It's just a bit west of Hong Kong and Shenzhen, I think. Yes, of course. We're not in Shenzhen anymore. We're in somewhere in international waters in Avalon City.
The water's blue and the grass is fancy.
Yes.
The kettle's pretty.
No, I find that.
Don't make my own boil water.
Right, that now works a bit better. So then on the next one we actually get a packet from the radio, and so we engage in a bit of complicated buggering around that I don't currently understand. Okay, what was that complicated stuff that chip just did? Why did it think it was a good idea? So it writes to MOV X0 is probably not going to help, is it? Where is the RAM? Or is it? Hang on, what do? You MOV AC X0. So you write to the RAM. That should then be MOV X2 X0, shouldn't it? Then you write the second byte of the packet to the RAM. Then you write a 0 byte to the RAM. And then backspace in order to overwrite the 0 byte when the next packet comes in, and then you send a signal up to this processor to say you've successfully written the thing. We can actually reduce all of that because there's no conditions in here, so we can actually go minus, 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 and do that instead for slightly fewer instructions. So that looks like that does now actually write the packet to the RAM correctly. Excellent. Make sure it's 0 terminated. Prods this poor processor to do something. So now we probably have to pay attention to this one, and I worked out where my bit of foam with the carefully cut holes in it for putting my laptop on is, and it's not in this room because I forgot to bring it through. So now my thighs are being gently toasted by my laptop. Yeah, that's far too dirty to put my laptop on. That would be rude. Anyway, what are we doing? So
Laptop contains food.
MOV X2 null. So that waits for a signal coming up that X3, X2 line. I've just thought of something we could use that for in order to make this not have to use a Sentinel. Maybe. With a bit of care. Yes, we could. MOV X2 null. Oh, except we have no spare registers, do we? Curses. Then read from the RAM. If it's not 0, then send it out X3 and then send another thing out X3. So the general approach of this one is that we immediately send whatever's in the RAM to there. That's surely not what this one wants to do, though. Because someone... or maybe something down here will help. No. So... then that's the backspace mechanism. And we don't actually... the thing is that really something needs to wait for the, like, sushi manufacturing bits to be ready to manufacture sushi. It's not going to work if no one is responsible for, like, keeping an eye on the queue. So what this one really needs to be doing is saying, are the sushi deliverers ready for ready to do more work yet? And it needs to keep track of whether they're yet in a position where they can do more work. And that surely is... that surely you can't do... Yeah, you're going to have to actually... I think the best way is probably that they don't signal back and forth to the things that are doing the sushi manufacturing, but rather they... rather just that whatever's doing this job keeps count of the time. Because, like, it takes a fixed amount of time to prepare sushi, unlike daisy wheel printers, which take variable amounts of time just to make your life really unpleasant. So that feels to me like we want this thing to be regularly going... have we got a spare register over here? We might have. Pause, pause, read. It's 3 cycles per thing. Because an alternative would be that this one tells this one when it's appropriate to read things from the RAM. Like, we've got quite a bit of a spare capacity here. And the interesting thing is that we could have, instruction capacity, is that we could have this one actually send the... Oh. We could have this one actually send the ending address, which would vastly simplify the code here. The only tricky thing is that this one would need... Yeah, but then it isn't using its accumulator, is it? Then it can stick the ending address in the accumulator. I mean, I'm not actually going to fix the underlying problem, but I think using essentially counted strings rather than null terminated, only that's not really what we're doing because this is a queue, not a string, would make this a lot simpler. So let's try that. So instead... So that mov null x3 should instead become a mov x1 x3. So we just send the address pointer which marks the tail of the queue, and then if this one ever catches up with that, it knows that it's read the entire queue and it doesn't need to do anything again. It doesn't need to do anything for a bit. So then that means that we don't need that instruction, that instruction, that instruction, or that instruction. So then this one, rather than mov x2 null, does mov x2 ACK. Then it can... Then what it wants to do is... rather than teak ACK 0, teak x1 ACK, to check whether it's already pointing at the tail of the queue. If it is not already pointing at the tail of the queue, copy 2 bytes of data to, well, probably the wrong place, but hey, it's what we've got. And if it is pointing at the tail of the queue, well, do nothing. And like, this is still wrong, but it's damn sight shorter wrongness. Like, now I could make this into a small processor. Yeah, this is a much more sensible design. So essentially, on every clock cycle now, this one transmits the current tail of the queue position. So an interesting question is, could we... No, I was wondering, could we arrange that it does the timing more cleverly? But I think this one is the one that has to think about timing. Okay, how about we're really stupid? Let's be really, really stupid. Can we be that stupid? I mean, like, what happens if we just put in here... And we can do... Oh, we can't do better than that. We've got no PP pins. Actually, no. Oh, no, that doesn't work. I was wondering, can we do slip X2? But of course, X2 has actual semantic value and is different numbers at different times, so we can't quite do that. Yeah, so we've now got 3 slips, and we just ignore the tail of Q pointer most of the time, and only pay attention to the tail of Q pointer every 3 cycles. Now, that's not quite what we wanted, because if we... Ooh. So if this one doesn't get an order, as in if it finds the queue empty, it should immediately loop back on the next cycle and look for an order again. But that's actually easy to achieve as well. We just do that. Right. So now, if there is an order waiting, this one will transmit the order down X3, sleep 1, discard a message saying whether there's an order waiting or not, because we can't process one, sleep 1, discard again, sleep 1, then then find out whether there's another order in the queue. If there isn't an order in the queue, on the other hand, we skip all of that, just sleep 1, and then check on the next thing. That works, probably. Right, okay. And it fits in my tiny processor, because I because I redesigned things to not be stupid. Now I can also, since I think this is actually a sane thing as well, let's scale that one down a bit for lower costs. No, not that one. We want MC4000X. And perhaps more importantly, for extra space. Wrong button. Also, it's confusing. I've got a right mouse button that works again now. Dell have mended it. Now I don't have to tuck that radio down there in a really stupid position. Doesn't actually have to be a circle, but it can be. Now I'm looking like we've got space in on this circuit board. I mean, it's all in the wrong place, but maybe we can find a use for it. So, now, what happens downstream of that then? So this, we now get out of this XBus port 2 bytes, the first one of which is the first byte of the packet, which is the sushi type, and the second one of which is the destination. We've got enough space here that we could build a little demultiplexer if we need one, haven't we? So this processor over here then waits for a signal on X0 and records it in ACK. That's the kind of fish it's meant to produce. It then needs to fetch the other thing from X0 before it tries to do anything, so let's do that. Since I don't know quite what to do with it, let's stuff it in DAT. Because otherwise it'll just hang. That will get us that hang on right that we saw there. Then it emits rice at full power, fish, rice at half power, rice at 0 power. So that gets us up to there in the timing diagram, or no, strictly that gets us to there. So it does then, it can then slip 1 if necessary. Yes, Dell mending things on the second try appears to be more or less normal. I've had 3 warranty calls on my laptop, and in two of them took 2 visits and 2 motherboards. Munkegrund, the laptop I'm doing this on, is now on its 6th motherboard. This one is apparently brand new, so maybe this one will last. So, where are we? Oh yes, I was going to add another slip there just on principle because we can. So that then takes us up to that point in time. So then this then expects 2 more clock time intervals, which is precisely the correct number. Interesting. So if we just stick in mov dat x1 there, maybe that's correct. Well, IRC Dizzy is on its 3rd motherboard this week. Well, strictly so's mine. I mean, when I say this week, actually, the last fortnight, because it was on last Friday and Monday. Yes, my one turned out to have a dodgy SIM slot. Anyway. I don't think most of our government ministers have dodgy USB-C ports.
Are you sure then?
Right, there we are. Correctly functioning sushi robot.
Ooh.
See, absolutely what it needed was just for me to go away for a week.
Maybe Simon should try that possibly.
There we go. More or less modal production cost, less than modal power usage, less than modal lines of code. I'm wondering now if I can turn the production cost down further, but like there's no obvious low-hanging fruit anymore. Like the RAM obviously has to be there. Yeah, using a ROM for the table lookup is a bit silly. Would have been nice to see a... Oh, you mean a diagram of it actually working? Yes. It's a pity they didn't provide that. Like, there's one in the manual, but that's not very helpful for actually... It would be nice to see the sushi zooming around the restaurant. So, that was a success. Phew, that went even better than I expected. Not only was Lisa surprised, she really liked the food too. I'll never forget how her face lit up when she had the first bite. I'm just glad I made her happy. Thanks, I owe you one. Oh, message from Carl. Hey, how's life in Avalon City? You solve all of humanity's problems yet? We can barely solve our own problems. Things here at Longteng are mostly the same. That's probably not surprising. Wang Yonghong, who was apparently our CEO this whole time. Did you know that? Anyway, he retired. Never heard so much as a peep from him, so it's all the same as far as I can tell. Lily is CEO now, and she's doing a pretty bang-up job. Joe was promoted to her old spot, and he's doing pretty well too. David moved back to San Francisco with his wife. Last I heard, he's a consultant who tells American companies how to adapt their products for the Chinese market. I suppose we'll see how that goes. Jay's still the head of the engineering department. His daughter made a couple more games that everyone here got hooked on all over again, so it's probably a good thing she's off to college now. As for me, well, I'm alive. The company's grown quite a bit since you left, but they're hiring mostly homegrown engineers now. These days, I'm just the gibbering pet Englishman in the corner while the rest of the team go on with the business of making products, taking over the world, etc. Take care out there while you're doing your important work, and don't let Mr. Sun get you down. Ta? Carl. Meanwhile, Irina Kurchatova, chief nuclear scientist at Avalon City, has a new job that isn't building a cat feeding machine. This one will require me to find the manual again, won't it? Which I don't have in my shell history because I've been doing too much typing. That directory, you can't see any of this, you can just hear me typing it. Game content Shenzhen I manual English. Right. Okay, can we have that rotated into the correct orientation, please? Currently I'm only allowed to rotate documents clockwise today. I haven't noticed the usual safety critical warning at the bottom of the data sheets. Looks fine. Obviously perfectly acceptable to use these in nuclear reactors. Texas Instruments may not want you doing this, but apparently whoever our microcontroller supplier is quite happy. Plus, this is only the for the reactor status display. I'm sure it's not safety critical. Display. Right, so error is an X bus input indicating the current reactor error, if any. Power is a simple input indicating the current power output of the generator. Temp is a simple input indicating the current temperature of the reactor's core. Control is a simple input indicating the current state of the reactor's control rods. And display is an X bus display output corresponding to an LX900C custom LCD. So this is indeed something that's purely displaying things. It is not controlling the reactor. That's fine. Continuously update the display to show the current status of the reactor. Well, that sounds simple. To turn on a display segment, send that segment's ID to the display. To turn it off, send the display segment's ID multiplied by -1. To turn off everything, send the value -999. If reading from error, send that value to display. If reading from error provides a value, send that value to the display unchanged. Look in the supplemental data section of the manual to find the custom LCD specifications for the display in addition to specific instructions. Which gives me a bunch of numbers for all of the... So essentially every possible segment of the LCD has a number, and we have some information about how we should display different inputs. So I'm going to start sticking some post-it notes on this. So the control input can be 0, 50 or 100, and that should light up. 0 should light up segments 32, 33, 34. 50 should light up 31, 32, 33. And 100 should light up 30, 31, 32. Power less than 20 only light up segment 20, less than 40 light up 20 and 21, and so on in that fashion. So that's the two things at the bottom. and then right, and that is, and the same for temperature, except that that was temperature, sorry. Power is the same, except that power's numbers start from 10. And we have a bunch of error indications, but we don't really need to know what those are because we pass them straight through. Well, that seems fairly simple. I mean, it feels like the obvious thing is like we just wipe the display on every cycle and reprogram it with what we currently want. Except that we can't do that because the error indication is unhelpful in that respect, isn't it? Yes. So we would wipe the display and refill it, but if we do that, we can't rely on how the error signal updates things. So, I mean, this is a completely trivial thing, except that, it looks like that doesn't work because you actually need something to forcibly read it and forcibly write it. Okay. Now, one interesting thing, of course, is that we know XBus is a bus, which means that we can have multiple processors that can write into the display input. So, right, that probably doesn't work quite right. Yeah, because it jams there, because we actually need an SLX X0 at the start. So that can now light up. That processor gets all the error indications right. I mean, it's a bit extravagant to throwing a whole processor at the job, but we're not allowed to route tracks underneath the display panel, apparently. So that's that bit done. So then it feels like I kind of want to go so if this is going to do the control rods, we can do, how do we do this efficiently? So 32 is always lit, isn't it? Yes. And then so if we run that trivial simulation, that lights up one of the segments correctly. Then it presumably wants one of those at the end. So then what else does it need to do? It needs so if it's, so we've got two others, 30, we've got total of 5 things. So you've got 4 that we want to do things to. That's kind of inconvenient because that means that would tend to indicate like we're going to want to do things like mov 30 x1 or mov minus 30 x1, and if we want to do that for 4 different segments, we're going to run out of space. So is there some clever way that I can fix that I can work around the need for so many instructions? Could we do some kind of, we start with a number that's because we have 2 segments in each case that are just inverses of each other. But it's really not going to be that easy to... Ooh, do I just do... No, we've got 3 different states we want. And essentially 4 segments we're interested in. So that will be a total of 12 things if we just used a trivial lookup table. But that would require a large processor to get us enough XBus ports to operate a lookup table. And if we have a large processor, we'll have enough space to do this anyway. Even without a lookup table. Why is there a slip one there? What's the point of that? So, is there a cleverer way? Well, let's write the big version as usual and then make it cleverer later. Oops, wrong place. So let's send 32 to x3. Then if we want to sort out 30 and 33, we say turn on segment 30. If we were at 100, turn on segment 30, turn off segment 33. Those are the only that is the only circumstance under which those two are that way round. Otherwise, right. And then similarly, if it's 0, then we want to turn on 34 and we want to turn off 31. Otherwise we don't. Right, so I think that might have the control rods correct. Now that doesn't look very correct to me, does it? For like several reasons, one of which is that we're lacking a slip 1 at the end of that. Another one of which is, well, it's all a complete disaster.
Perfectly reasonable.
So let's see what happened then. So we start with the, oh, that's because I'm testing the wrong input. Yes, it's going to work a lot better if I read the correct input, isn't it? I mean, it's still wrong, but at least I can measure the right input. So we should start with control at 0, which should light up, or rather darken up, whatever, the outer 3 there, but it appears not to work. So let's see why. So it's obviously not equal to 100. Oh, well, there's one of my bugs. That plus should be a minus, and that plus should be a minus. Right, that looks better. Those control rods seem to be moving more or less correctly.
I have to say the words more or less correct.
Sorry,
in the context of the control rod.
This is not. We're not operating the control rods. We're merely indicating where they are. No. This is the next project, which is the status display for a nuclear reactor.
I hate to point out this is still safety protocol.
Have you already had to put it with sort of raw fission on yet or not?
No.
Okay, that's on the one.
Too late.
So that's kind of messy in terms of the amount of code needed. So, but it works. So now we want to do the power and temperature monitoring. And those are basically the same, except that they operate 2 different sets of LCD segments. So it feels to me like we might want one. I suppose we can either have one processor that handles each, or we can try to have the same processor with the same code handling both. But it probably can't. Maybe problem is we don't really have subroutines in this, so it's quite hard to have one bit of code that does 2 slightly different things. So let's just try building one of the power and thing processors. Also, let's tuck this processor way over here. you might guess that I'm already making plans for where the last processor goes. Now what we want is essentially to pull out the second digit, divide it by 2, and use that to decide how many things to light up. But I think actually we may not even need to be that clever. So it may look like excuse me, that's the noise of me going, yeah, that's all very well, but I need to count in 2 different directions at once. And I've only got this one accumulator to do with it. To do it with something like that. Well, let's be unbelievably crude then. Can we? I mean, like, we can go... So we actually know that the bottom segment is always lit. But I think we can kind of see where this is going, which is not going to fit. Because that's all very well, but there's one more segment of the display that we haven't managed to operate. So, like, happily the power only gets up to 30 in this first test run, so that one's fine. Set this one to actually operate the correct segments. And why have I got segment 23 twice? Maybe I have got enough space. Is this really this trivial a puzzle? Like after the last one? Oh, not quite. Okay, so what went wrong there? set a breakpoint and try again. Yes, I'm afraid that this is not actually a thorium salt reactor. This is merely a control panel for a thorium salt reactor. But yes, I do own a tiny PCB mounted oven. Right, so at this point, what is wrong with my display? Looks like the temperature display is wrong. Have I got one of my comps wrong as well? Yes, I continue to be an idiot. That should read 69, not 49. Only it shouldn't, because actually the numbers are 59 and 79. No wonder this doesn't work. I mean, aside from the fact that it's ugly, but... Right. I can probably safely turn off that breakpoint now. I mean, on the one hand, it's obviously correct, and like, it's obviously correct. But there is no cleverness going on here at all. And like, maybe for safety critical systems, no cleverness going on here at all is actually what we wanted. Like, I've just used the biggest processors and they're doing very simple, if greater than this, then that sums, and turning on and off display segments accordingly. And I'm fairly sure it could be cleverer. But, like, yes, it feels like this is probably the right way to build this. Let's just make it very obviously correct. He says, having built it wrong twice. But it was obviously wrong. Like, the thresholds in the code were just wrong. So, yes, I kind of feel that that's the best kind of answer for that. So, from Sun Hao Tian, several years ago I met a brilliant young scientist who told me the future of energy was in thorium-based nuclear power. I was sceptical, to say the least. Today I could not be more happy to have been proven wrong, and in so short a time. With Avalon City's first liquid fluoride thorium reactor, shortly liquid thorium fluoride, IUPAC will be coming round to have words, coming online today, and many more on the way. Please join me in giving Dr. Kurchatova a big hand for her stunning achievements. Congratulations, Irina. Soon we will have more energy than we could ever need. No, sorry. From Kamran Farzan, K Farzan at neuro.avalon. Let's get a custom board going for the current design. Did you even introduce yourself, Kamran? I guess someone's too busy for introductions. Kamran is leading an effort to design a low-level brain-computer interface. It's part of the Nethuns project. Alternatively, Dr. Suemura has been working on the design of a printable lattice for neural processing units that weaves a growth medium around a nanoscale trellis-like structure. We now need to devise a process to produce them, which is where you come in. Right. So what is our Sense 0 through Sense 5 are simple inputs connected to neuroactivity sensors. Conveniently binary. Output is an X-bus output connected to a computer for analysis. When pulses occur on two or more sense channels within a window of 2 time slices, I'm just looking at the board layout and going, you're trying to push me into a particular implementation here. Report the sense indices over output in increasing order. Do not report the same pulse more than once. So, if, for instance, we get 3 pulses simultaneously on 0, 1 and 5, we send a packet containing 0, 1, 5 immediately. If we get a pulse on 0 followed 1 time unit later by pulses on 1, 2, 3, then we send 0, 1, 2, 3 when we receive the second of those pulses. What if we receive 2 pulses and then 1 pulse in the next time unit? Do we have any examples of that? Because that's another 1, then several. Don't think we have an example of several followed by 1. So we're not quite sure what's going on there. So, I mean, it's not quite... I mean, the thing is, they're obviously pushing me to use a couple of DX300s simply because we can't get all those sense wires through this narrow section of circuit board. But we can, obviously, get 2 X buses. But there is actually enough space there to finally, though it probably won't turn out to be very useful, use the ludicrous gate array. But the problem with that is I'm not sure I can actually use it to carefully tell me which inputs are in what state, because it only has 1 output. So I fear that while it would be amusing, I can't actually use that, and it is the DX300s we have to use. How? I mean, there's an awful lot of space then to the right in which to do what seems at first glance like a fairly simple job. So do not report passes more than once feels like a not exactly a trap, but a trickery of sorts. So we need somehow to... it feels like we want to collect up all of the signals and like count them into a memory somewhere and then see how many there are. And but that's kind of tricky because of this. Oh, well, the overlapping thing isn't that hard because the thing is when we send a message, so I think we essentially have, if we ignore my worries about several then one on the assumption that actually you just treat that one as noise, then what we do is we essentially reset our counter whenever we transmit anything. So I'm now not sure whether I've got this right, but that's not a problem. We'll fix it later. Yeah, the problem is it takes so long to extract a digit, as it were. If we, like, we can check the high order digit really simply. But the middle digit is like 4 instructions. Which means that we can't fit in, by that means, any way of reading all 6. I think that's actually 3 there. 0. 2, which means that 3 is probably 5. What? I mean, I know this code is not actually very helpful, but I thought I got the numbers right. Five is active, which we know. Oh, that's still reading X0 Stokeface. Right. But also, of course, it should read them in numeric order. So like that has correctly written the 3 things, the 3 of the, no, it's written the wrong 3, what? Why do you write 4? Because I don't know what I've done here. Right. That's probably correct. Maybe. Except that obviously then means that the code's the wrong way around. And what's that slip 1 doing there? I've made a complete pig's ear of this. Let me undo back to what might be vaguely correct code and try again. And while it should write 015, it just writes 15. Yes, that's what we expected. Because we can't actually, in the amount of code we've got available, test all 6 inputs. So can we do a better job of the input testing? Obviously oh yes, we can. I was going to say obviously in a sane world we would do something like we check the low order bit, then shift right by low order digit, shift right by a digit. We don't have division, but we do of course have multiplication. I mean, it's not very helpful multiplication because it saturates. So does that end up being the same number of instructions, but they're slightly less horrific instructions? And of course we end up writing everything to the RAM backwards. Well, so be it. Like if we go start with X1 so that we do it properly backwards. Yeah, that doesn't help as much, does it? Because it's the same number of instructions. We end up with 4 instructions for 2 of the bits and 2 instructions for the other bit. Well, not bit, digit. And we need to get down to 7 total for each half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes. Plus a slip 1 somewhere. So 6.5. I mean, all of this lot is essentially a subroutine that takes 2 parameters, the value of ac and what and what the base number of the thing is. Even that's kind of what if no. Wondering what if I can somehow, if I just have one processor whose job is just convert these signals into X bus in any format at all. Rather, not in any format at all, in a slightly more sane format, and then another one whose job is make that that we gradually render the format more sane as we go in, so that like the first processor essentially just splits these into digits, so it sends 6 X bus signals numbers representing the 6 digits, and then the next processor handles working out what the actual numbers are that correspond with those. So the idea then would be that the 2 halves do actually use the same code. So, is there a sensible way of just getting the hundreds digits out? Of each number. We're now can we actually pipeline this even further and go, actually the first step we want is just that. Then the next step is something that processes. Actually, it probably has to be a big processor, doesn't it? Infuriating. This is going to stay out one instruction too long. So the idea of this is that we write 6 numbers into the RAM, except that this doesn't quite write the 6th one correctly, and they just go 11001, except of course we want 6 digits, but we haven't quite got the space for that. So on the other hand, that code is really very crude. So how can it be made slightly less terrible? We don't have a convenient, we have digit extraction, but it's very slow. It'll be even worse here because we have to stash the number we're working on in DAT. And all of our arithmetic is saturating, which loses a lot of tricks for getting at the low order bits. And so, yes, we don't have division. So, how can we pull apart these numbers one instruction faster? So what we're trying to achieve here is this processor wants to take a number on that port, which has 3 digits, each of which is 0 or 1, and to output the 3 digits as 3 separate numbers, each of which is 0 or 1 on this port. Though I'm willing to accept other encodings, as long as essentially the 3 numbers are in 3 distinct writes into the RAM. 3 digits are in 3 distinct writes into the RAM, and can all be interpreted in more or less the same way. Thing that I observe, though it may not be very helpful, is that we only actually need to remember one pulse. As in, if we get more than one pulse, then we can process them all immediately. So that means we almost certainly don't need to actually stash anything in RAM. The RAM is just a convenient thing, a convenient place for testing things. I'm not sure this helps though. Maybe it does. Maybe we go back to the old encoding because it actually uses fewer instructions. Imagine, if you will, does it though? Well, let's try something. Oops. So that writes the wrong numbers, but under the right circumstances. In that it writes 210 both on the first for the first number and for the second number. So, and we don't have any way of distinguishing on its output which pass it's on. We have 2 spare instructions. The problem is we're already using the accumulator. And this is, of course, the 2 spare instructions that aren't enough for doing 3 two-way decisions. We can't add 3 minus qualified instructions. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, but what if... No, that doesn't work. I was wondering if we could... We have essentially a tiny loop here that we've gone and unrolled. And could we actually do it as... in that we have twice the TGT Act 99 thing sub 100 mull 100. So can we turn that into an actual loop? And of course the tricky thing there is having a functioning loop counter. The usual answer to I haven't got a convenient loop counter is that's what the RAM's for, of course. You can use the if on every cycle you write to the RAM, i.e. we change our design back again, then you can use the RAM address pointer as a loop counter. So if we did that, we could replace that with that, except we would also need to do that. So that then runs the loop until x3 is 3 or 6. When it's 3, we want to go back up to there. Oh, we need to actually write something to the RAM at some point, don't we? Oh, we do kind of do that. And then if it's not 3, then it must be 6, and we've therefore reached the end of the RAM, end of the data for this time period, and we reset the RAM address pointer and sleep until the next time period. So that is kind of interesting. I mean, it appears to have a rather screwy idea of where all of the signals are meant to be. It does put things into the RAM. So that should have been 110001, and it's actually ended up as 011100. How did that happen? So we get 011 there, and we write that out in the order 011, and then that one reads 100, and we write that out. Yes. So we're writing each half backwards. So we'd end up doing, at least we'd write the whole thing backwards if we swapped x0 and x1 around here. So let's do that. So now it says, yes, that's better. That's not right though. 10011. What? The first one goes 100011. Excellent. Next one, all zeros. So that reads 100, which is the bottom section. 1 0 0. One. That just jumped to the wrong place. What the hell are you on, Ben? Mull 10. Right. Right, so there we have at least something that can represent the numbers in a sane format in the RAM. I'm not sure if that's what we want, but since it's 2 minutes to midnight, I'm going to be to declare it to be all that we're going to get tonight. So I will stop here and we'll come back and have another look at this maybe on Sunday, and see what we think of it. So good night, everyone.